Welcome back to the boxing shop, ladies and gentlemen. We are live once again. What's up, Ray?
Hey man, another week. We're here. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. A little earlier than usual, but same good stuff. You know what I mean? Good content. Um, what was your biggest takeaway from this past weekend?
This past weekend, huh? We're hopping right into it. I would think the most meaningful was the Alexis Rocha fight. I wasn't big on Alexis Rocha. I'm not a fan actually, but I think it was the biggest because I feel like they were trying to position him. After his last win against somebody, I don't know who he fought, probably no, but he was trying to say that he should be next for Terrence Crawford, and trying to maneuver that. Like, I'm not mad at somebody wanting a title shot, but you know, we talk about self-awareness on here a lot. Like, come on, bro, look who you're fighting, and like, keep it real. And he was in there with Santillan this past weekend, an undefeated fighter, and I think they overlooked him. I think on the matchmaker side, right? I think they saw like, he's got a lot of wins, but not many knockouts. What was he, like 30, 32 wins or 31 wins, and like maybe half of those knockouts? And they got a rude awakening. So I think that was the most meaningful fight this weekend.
Yeah. He was 30. Well, at that time, 31 wins, 16 knockouts. Now 32 with 17 knockouts, and that was the big talk of the weekend, I guess you could say. It was a slow weekend, but that's not to take away from what he did. Giovanni went in there and did work, man. I was never fully impressed with Rocha myself, like completely. I wasn't sold on him, but Giovanni definitely took whatever momentum I think he had
Yeah,
working for him away.
like I said, bro, I wasn't sold on him at all. But that's the guy that's Golden Boy's 147 pounder, right?
Yeah,
Like, his Virgil was gone, or Virgil can't make that. That was like the guy. Maybe this guy could get us somewhere. And bro, he got washed, right? Like, from round one on, he was just getting beat up, bro. Jab, power jab, just on one of the knockdowns. I think it was like 6 or 7 hooks in a row. Rocha had no defense. He was just taking everything, and maybe he wasn't fighting a big puncher, but when you have no defense and get hit by everything, bro, that's gonna add up. So yeah, he falls off. I did see Blair Cobbs. All right, he was in one of the comments saying, "Oh, y'all were really sold by the 1 week notice, right?" And if you remember, Rocha did beat Blair Cobbs, probably his biggest win. But yeah, it was on a week notice, which Blair's kind of always said Golden Boy hasn't treated him the best. So I mean, maybe there's some credibility to those, to what he was saying.
yeah. No, I think there definitely probably is. It doesn't hurt Cobb or doesn't do anything for Cobb's stock right now because he's been so inactive. But I'm curious to see how how the perception really is now on that loss. If it's going to take away from him or add to it.
Or shoot, now let's run it back on full camp so we can see, because I think Rocha falls off. Like,
Yeah.
um, I did. So after watching the fight, right, and it was such a dominant performance, I kind of went back. I kind of watched, interviews leading up to the fight, and where Santillan was with Robert Garcia, and they talked about how they both grew up, or not both grew up, but Robert was talking about he'd been around Alexis Rocha's family for like years, and they were just so confident. Santillan was saying like he wanted the fight. They had sparred together, and he wanted the fight. And looking back at it now, of course it's easy to look back, but looking back and watching those interviews, man, I think those guys knew what they were going to be able to do. And he fought a great fight, and he put himself now in a position. Maybe I'm not putting him up there with Crawford yet. And we talk about self-awareness. What did he say after the fight? He said, Mario Barrios just fought recently. and that's a fight that he would love. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good fight. Like I feel like they're at that both same level, and I think that'd be a good fight. As for Rocha, I wasn't the biggest fan of his, just kind of how he was calling out Crawford and that. But post fight, even his interviews, you know, he said he wants to get right back in there. He talked about not moving his head at all or that. So you got to respect it. And he said he wants to come back as soon as possible. So you got to respect the fighter mentality. But I don't think either guy is like gonna be the guy at 147. I guess.
Yeah. I think the Barrios fight would be perfect too, though. I'm with you on that. I don't see the guy being the guy like you said too at 147, but there's great fights to be made at that area, and Mario Barrios is a perfect starting point for it. Definitely good self awareness, like you said. That's always the thing with a lot of these fighters too. Is whether they win or lose, it's just that self awareness of where they are in their career and what happened in that ring. I mean, I still see. I was reading an interview from Chris Colbert today about his upcoming fight with Ryo, and I mean he still talks about how he easily beat him. I mean, it wasn't an easy win, and you can go back and forth all you want on who picked that up, but I mean the self awareness. I don't think there's been in a close controversial fight. I can't think of maybe one fighter, Johnny Tapia, who's probably the only one to give credit to the guy who should have got the victory that night. It's that's
Yeah.
just one of those things.
Yeah, and Colbert, and maybe that's just an ego thing because it was so heated afterwards. But like, Colbert has to know, like, even if he thinks he won, that was a hard fight.
Yeah,
And I think that's what you're getting at. Like, man, come on, like you didn't win that fight easy. Like, you were getting hurt or whatever. And then, in this fight, Rocha, like I said, he was just saying like he's got to move his head. He didn't listen to his corner, and he was getting hit. And like I said, they might have thought maybe he didn't have a lot of power, but if you're taking punches,
yeah, and he was
like
eating them.
if you're taking punches, bro, you're gonna break down eventually. Um, so
And the
I
thing
I
is,
did see,
well, I was just gonna say he was eating them even with his guard up too, which was crazy.
yeah, and maybe that goes back to they talked about they were sparring partners. They had worked together. Because he said he looked like he went in there and knew he had no, wasn't worried about anything basically. Like from the round one, that he was just boom throwing a power jab, and they said he is a converted southpaw, so his power hand is that right hand. But oh yeah, the jab busted him up in the first, and then like I said, I think it was the first knockdown, maybe say I don't know, but it was like 6 hooks in a row, and that's your power hand. Like you can't just take those punches. I did see after the fight, De La Hoya looked kind of surprised, saying, "I've never seen him with that much energy. I've never seen him with that much energy." I'm like, bro, well, maybe you should have did better homework. They're kind of turning into Matchroom with getting their prospects beat.
Right.
Because this was this is he was lent by Top Rank to come over and fight a Golden Boy fighter on the Golden Boy platform of the Zone. So that kind of loss has to hurt, man. Not only for Rocha, but for the company.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And that, I mean, Matchroom definitely takes a lot of L's with their prospects, but at the same time, those are the kind of fights you want to see, those 50-50 kind of
Right.
fights. But I mean, when all of your prospects are taking losses, like, damn, what does
Yeah.
this say about your prospects?
Right. I can't hate on that. That oh man, your prospect lost because I'm glad you're in a 50-50 fight. But I'm saying like I don't think they expected that to be a 50-50 fight. I
Yeah.
think they saw the record. I think they saw the KO ratio, and we're like, oh, we're good. And I feel like Golden Boy kind of does that, right? I guess everybody does it, right? They get these guys with some maybe what they're thinking inflated records. This is what like Matchroom does it too, inflated records, and they throw them in there. And hey, if a guy has 30 wins, he has 30 wins for a reason.
Right.
So yeah, that has to hurt, man. That's their 147, I think, guy they were counting on. And now, shoot, they lost to someone from another rival promotional company.
Well, let's also briefly talk about the rest of that card really quickly too. We'll just go through the results. Joe Sean James picked up the first round knockout over David Stevens. Uh, Clarisse Morales picked up unanimous decision over Ayana Verduzco. Gabriela Fondora, uh, fifth round KO over Aureli Musino, picking up the IBF flyweight championship. That was one that stood out for me because again we were talking about it before, and I've talked about her on this program before. Aureli Musino, she was a good ass fighter and high output, threw a lot of punches, was just always in there, just fighting, a lot of heart, and for her to get beat as easily as she did tells me a lot about Gabriela Fondora. She's that's a fighting ass family, and she's a real deal, man. Watching the way she destroyed her the other night was amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of some of those intangibles that we talked about Sebastian having. It's like his sister has too, like kind of same body structure, tall, lanky, and when they start kind of whipping those punches, like not everybody's gonna stand up to it. In Sebastian's with Sebastian, Mendoza was able to, and you came back and got the knockout, even though I thought Mendoza was losing, but in this fight right here, like you don't see a lot of knockouts in women's boxing. It's just something you don't see. So when for Fondora to show that she can, that fight was changed with one punch. Um, Not that she was losing or whatever, but like she landed that punch to the head, and shoot, basically that was the end of it. She, you know, took her equilibrium. She had no balance, and the fight was over soon after. So when you have a female boxer that can punch, I think that's gonna bring fans to the sport to want to watch. And yeah, and that was a world championship fight. You said,
Yeah, that was the IBF world title.
yeah. So hey, man,
There she goes. She has her first world championship now too. So congratulations to the Fondora family and Gabriella. That's without a doubt. I want to say, don't quote me. I mean, it could definitely be wrong, but I want to say it's the first ever brother sister duo world champions in the history of boxing. It has to be.
I feel like you just pulled that out of thin air, bro.
That has to be. Tell me that I'm wrong. That has to. Can you
I'm
think?
not. I mean, I'm not doubting. I'm not doubting it. I'm just saying. I don't think you did any research on that.
I didn't, but that's one of those facts that you're
Are
like,
we
oh,
are we giving Sebastian? He's a world champion.
oh, that's right. He didn't pick up the world title. What or did he have he had the world title at the interim?
Didn't he have an interim? I
Yeah,
mean, yeah.
that counts,
Okay.
right?
I don't know because what happened to Mendoza's belt?
I don't know. That's the weird thing, and I'd ask you about that too. I guess during the ring announcements, I was like, wait a minute, this dude had the WBC. What happened to it? Like I remember even because I'm even on his Facebook friend page, fan page, whatever. He had posted, when he got the belt and he was taking pictures of it, showing his family and this and that. Um, and then that come fight night, the title was nowhere to be seen. Like they didn't even have it, like holding it like a former champion would do. Like I don't know what that whole situation. It was like the
I
Garcia
gotta,
fight.
yeah, I gotta look that up. But yeah, I mean, hey, he was interim world champion, so
Yeah,
congrats to the family, man. Like that's shoot. If they're not the first, there's very few, if any. So that's something they deserve all the credit for.
yeah, without a doubt. And then from somebody winning their first world title to what I think is possibly a future world champion, John Scrappy Ramirez picked up a nice little knockout victory.
Dude, that dude ain't winning no world championship, bro.
In his division, who do you think?
I feel like he's a bootleg. What they say, like we when you order the Wish or from Wish or whatever. I feel like he's a bootleg Tiafimo. Like, bro, and that dude's just super corny to me. I don't know why. Like, he wears the skirt, which I don't like. Um, and this is just pure hate. Like, I just don't like the guy. Just seems super corny to me. Like, he's got. I don't like his hairline. I don't like anything about the dude, bro. Like, bro, like, just shave your head, bro. Like, you got like a. I don't know if it's a mohawk, and he's trying to rock the braids off of that. And I mean, just the. I don't know. He's like all hype, like off of a knock. Like he's coming off of, like, I think, basically a robbery win. It was a majority or something like that. And yeah, you got the knockout. It was a good body punch, but come on, man, that guy had just been stopped his fight before. Um, nah, no, he did what he was supposed to do. I'm not sold. I'm not. I don't even think he's. I don't. I think he's just a guy that's gonna get beat soon. So, but if you think he's world champ, bro, right on.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, give it time. Not anytime soon. Maybe 2025, 2026. I think he'll be in the talks there. It's the smaller guys. They tend to move quicker. So I mean, it could be
What
20.
what is his weight? Look, that's how much hating. That's how much hating I'm doing. I don't even know what weight class he's at, and I'm not even giving him a chance. Do you have weight?
Yeah, he's a super flyweight. So he is. Where's his? I just had his entire page up here right now.
We
So
got
he's,
we got a top 10 on there.
yeah, let's find us the top 10. We'll do that. I'm pulling
Yeah,
that
do that.
top 10 up right now. While I'm doing that, talk to us about Jorge Linares and Jack Catterall.
Okay, man, it was that's one of those fights that's like, as a boxing fan, for me it's tough to watch, right? Because you get Jorge Linares, who's kind of held it down for years now. And you remember him. I remember him as like the top prospect, and now he's at the tail end of his career, and losing to someone that I felt like, at his best, he's a much better fighter than. Um, he took the L, yeah, like, not disputing that at all, but it's just tough to watch when you see the guy throwing punches, or Linares throwing his combos, which he's known for, and Catterall just gets out of there, right? Like, never really in danger. Um, hey, man, it happens. It happens to every fighter, basically. And Linares said he was retiring afterwards, and those last fights are tough to watch, man. I feel like this was one of those. It didn't really tell me much about Catterall. I know they said they want to see Catterall, Josh Taylor again. Bro, go ahead and make that happen. Like, I feel like both those guys are non-factors. If they want to do that overseas, go ahead and make that happen. Put it on the zone. I won't watch. I'll catch a recap, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I feel you with that. There, we didn't learn a whole lot about Jack. We kind of knew what he was. It was kind of one of those fights where I think it's just gonna be a fight that a lot of boxing fans will look back on and be like, "Oh, wow, I don't know." On paper, they'll see, "Oh, Catterall and Linares had a fight one time," and want to look that up. But it's definitely not going to be a fight that people really remember a whole lot, and it doesn't do much for either one of them. And as you mentioned, we have seen better days of Linares, but that wasn't a type of performance where I think that's completely it for him. I think he can still hold his own against a certain caliber of fighter. Maybe not top notch, obviously, top tier, not the elite level, but he's still got some gas left in that tank.
Yeah, but I like, man, go self-awareness. That's the theme of the day. Like, where he said this is it, and he told his family this is it. I have to believe him. Have we seen fighters say that and then come back for a big paycheck? 100%. But it just, when you see a fighter like that who can't do what you're used to seeing them do, it's just a tough watch, man. And I feel like Linares has kind of been on the downside for a few fights now. Even in the Haney fight, you would think, man, Linares at his best, would have maybe did more, right? He rocked Haney. That's kind of what we remember for that fight. But this fight, I felt like, man, the combos weren't landing. He couldn't get off a 3-punch combo without Catterall getting out of there. And I don't think because it's Catterall so great. I think that just the decline of Linares.
Yeah, and it could definitely be that. Catterall is pretty fast and tricky too, with what he's got in his tool belt. But you know, I Catterall's not a guy that I've been like super impressed with myself. Not taking anything away from him either. It's just not the kind of style that I want to watch. I
Yeah.
mean, we saw that in the Taylor fight. Although that was a gritty performance, but he still doesn't bring forth the kind of exciting style that I really want to call my friend about and be like, "Yo, you got to turn it in to DAZN
Yeah.
right now."
Yeah, for me, I mean, at 140, I'm not saying sign me up for a Jack Catterall fight. I'm not saying sign me up for a Josh Taylor fight. I feel like the division's kind of boom. We got them out of the way with Teofimo getting that win. Now we got Regis. Haney's there. Yeah, maybe I'm a UK hater, whatever, but I'm not really putting those guys in the equation. I think there's Sandor Martin. Man, let him and Catterall mix it up and do that over in overseas and put that on the zone or something. But there's some real big dogs coming up, especially that Regis fight. And then you got Teofimo, like I said, you got Rolly, who maybe they're better than him, but he brings the excitement. Gervonta right there. I don't really put maybe talent wise if we're going just strictly off win, whatever. Maybe we bring Catterall in that, but I'm not. It's not like I can't wait to see Jack Catterall fight.
Yeah, same. and
Yeah,
there's not a lot of people out there who are knocking on that door, really.
yeah, yeah.
Circling back to the conversation now, I do got the top 10 uh, super flyweight,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
one of the first names that stands out is Junto Nakatani, which was like high on Jack's pound for pound list.
Okay. Shout
Of
out.
course, yeah, there's Juan Estrada, Roman Gonzalez, Andrew Maloney, Suzumi Takayama.
There's
Uh,
got to be Julio Cesar Martinez in there somewhere. Um,
um, I don't see him.
I don't know, man. I'm just saying. I don't think that boy Crappy Ramirez is gonna be no champ, bro. And he can dress it up. He could be a fake Teofimo all he wants, but I don't think he's it. I've been wrong before, but we'll see.
He is ranked 37 already, though. That's in the just the world rankings in general on BoxRec for that division. So he's not far off. 13-0. He'll, like I said, 2025, 2026. He'll be in the conversation if he follows the same trajectory that he should be. You know what I mean?
And but yeah, I guess I always go back to kind of the Canelo conversation. I think he had it on the Breakfast Club where he said it was kind of one of his reasons for partying with Golden Boy. And what he didn't like was that Oscar told him, you never give the fans what they want. You just give them like little pieces, like just give them a little bit. Don't give it to them all.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe he said, she said, whatever. But I think when Canelo said that, I think we've seen that, right? I think if we go back to the Alexis Rocha, you just give them a little bit, You don't give it to them all, and it can easily turn around and bite you. So yeah, if you're giving Ramirez 3 years, that's probably like 2-3 years. That's probably on the Golden Boy timeline. But it's just hard when you get to the spot because you're picking guys who look good on paper, but you're thinking can't really beat them.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if he's good enough to even beat those guys.
Well, moving forward, I guess that's it for last weekend. Unless you have any other final thoughts from last weekend.
No, man. I think Santillan got a big win. 147, I believe, is wide open. You know, kind of based on what Crawford's gonna do. Like, is that going to be open for Boots Ennis to take over? Mario Barrios is there. We got Thurman uh, Staniosis coming up, and Santillan has definitely made himself a player in that. Um, I think that was the big takeaway.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's the biggest winner of the weekend for sure because his stock went up the most out of everybody who fought. Maybe actually with even more so than Gabriela Fundora. And I hate to say it's because it's women's boxing, but that's really the only reason why his win kind of trumps her victory a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's no question about it. Like, shout out to Fundora, but
Yeah.
it's really two different sports.
One thing that I just saw right here because I was trying to find the entire undercard for the Fury and Ngannou fight, and bro,
My boy Adam Hurley's been in the comments. He's been talking about this fight. Let's get to it.
we're gonna get to it. I just saw something crazy right now, bro. I did not know that this fight was not going to be available on pay-per-view for the United States. Did you know that? Like what
No,
I'm
what do you
looking at,
mean? I thought
I'm literally on DAZN's website, and it says that the fight is on pay-per-view, excluding the UK, Ireland, US, and Canada. Something's got to be wrong. I've got to be reading this.
I gotta read it. I'm gonna tell you my take on it because I have seen that. I thought it was this fight is on DAZN, like regular DAZN, everywhere except a few countries, meaning like the U.S. DAZN. And I thought that in the U.S. it's gonna be something you have to buy. I could be wrong though, but I thought it was available on DAZN everywhere except a few countries.
Yeah, and actually, as I read more, you're definitely right. It is available on DAZN except UK, US, Canada, and Ireland. UK can watch it on TNT Sports Box Office, and the United States can purchase it on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. So there we go. Mystery solved. I thought that was some. I mean, with Tyson Fury, you never know because the guy can't even enter the state, so you never know what was going on there. It was definitely a headline that stood out to me really quickly, though. But hey, here we are. Fury and Ngannou fight week. What do you got to say about it, Ray?
Hey man, it's Tyson Fury, and I think even this confusion of where it's available in that, I think that speaks to the maybe the superstardom of Tyson Fury. Like things change, right? Like ESPN has their hands in it, DAZN has their hands in it. At the end of the day, whether you like this fight or not, Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight in the world, the biggest heavyweight in the world. And when you're in that position, things ain't the same as for everybody else. So, is this the best fight that could happen? No, but Tyson Fury is an entertainer at heart, and for me, I think he's earned the right to take on the biggest money fight possible, and I'm not mad at. I'm one, bro. I'm not mad at it.
Now, the other thing about this fight is you can't even find it on BoxRec. So, is this a actual sanctioned fight, or what is the deal behind this one?
I couldn't tell you, bro. I couldn't tell you. I know I heard exhibition this, exhibition, whatever. Tyson keeps saying he's the lineal champion, which he is. I don't know. Is it counting on his record? I'm not sure. But for me, let's see. And I'm going to throw Tyson Fury some bell because I'm a Tyson Fury fan. Is this better than Tyson Fury not fighting? 100%. Like, let me see him get in the ring. And there's going to be some people that think, if Francis Ngannou hits him, he has a chance. He has zero chance, right? Like, zero chance. Tyson Fury's been hit by Deontay Wilder. I promise you, he hits harder than Francis Ngannou. And where Francis or not Francis, where Tyson and kind of Usyk kind of have a what for December or January, right?
Yeah.
That they have a fight scheduled with rematch clause and all that. This tells me, hey, Tyson would have probably been in the gym sparring someone, but instead he's gonna go grab the bag and fight someone a lot easier than all his sparring partners.
That's best way to I can't even follow that. That's the best way to put it, really.
That's for real, right?
Yeah.
We see Tyson Fury in camp. I mean, I don't know who's in his camp this time, but I've seen Joseph Parker, and that's kind of the name that stands out. Come on, name a heavyweight, and they beat Francis Ngannou.
Bro,
So,
I've been seeing Francis hitting the mitts and then like some clips of like Mike Tyson showing him how to do it. Bro, Mike Tyson looks like he's in better shape to fight Tyson Fury right now than Francis Ngannou does. Just judging off of them hitting the mitts, because Francis, his punches look slow. I'm like, this is how do you expect to even land on Fury, bro? Like, it's not gonna happen.
bro, what was I think we've shared the video where Francis tries to shoulder roll after getting hit, doing the mitts, and he tries to shoulder roll after getting hit. It's like, but man, that's your UFC pound for pound hardest hitter ever, MMA. He's not with the UFC anymore. Shout out to him for being in the position to make the money he's about to make, right? Like, he has a crazy story. He's told it. I believe he's been on Rogan. But, and I always say this, the MMA guys, they go to MMA because it's easier than going to boxing. Like, Francis Ngannou wanted to be a boxer from the start. And, he ended up having to go to MMA. He became the UFC heavyweight champ. He's not doing that in boxing, bro. Like, I mean, and it's not saying that boxers are better than MMA guys. I'm not even making that argument, but it's factual. It's easier to go over there than to just become like the heavyweight world champ. So,
and just in general too, I feel like in general, the struggle from going to making your pro debut to becoming a champion is a lot less harsh on MMA fighters, especially in the UFC rankings, than it is boxing. Boxing, that's a you're in the grind for a few years, and I mean, it's rare that you see a champion nowadays. You see kind of within maybe the teen range, but like once they're at like 20-0 is when you start seeing the world titles coming in. UFC, they can fight for that world title at like 5 fights, 3 fights. You know what I mean?
And you said in the teens or whatever, and there's been some, not that many fights, bro. Their pedigree is crazy though, right? Like,
yeah,
I think of a Lomachenko or
right.
All these guys, their pedigree is crazy. And even then, you kind of, I feel like you see it more with like the lower weight classes where there's not as many people. But yeah, UFC, I can go to Brock Lesnar, that heavyweight division, right? Brock Lesnar was champ within a few fights. Francis Ngannou. It's just different. It's a whole different animal. And Tyson Fury has said, I'm going to knock him out in 6. Tyson's a talker, entertainer, but where he has a fight scheduled, huge fight, I'm hoping he doesn't take any chances and just gets Francis out of there.
Yeah, I would like to see it too. I mean, I've been very vocal in saying I don't like Tyson Fury, although you can't be a boxing fan and not respect him. The dude is one of, if not the greatest heavyweight fighters of all time. Just
it's debatable whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So the other side, even if you hated Tyson Fury, the other side is going to have an argument that he beat everybody in the history of the sport. And that's based off his size, his boxing skills. Like, man, it may be, right? These mythical fights may be.
Right.
And that's just something you can't take away. If he has any ounce of motivation and really will to get Francis Ngannou out of there, he's gonna do it. If he wants to do it in one round, I think he does it. If he wants to do it inside 6, he does it. It's like watch those videos, man. Like
Yeah.
Francis Ngannou couldn't shoulder roll the guy doing his pad work, right?
It
That's
was
just,
yeah, it was
that's just
sad.
factual. I would give. I think Tyson or Francis Ngannou Mike Tyson is a closer fight than Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury. 100%. I think that's a closer fight.
On the undercard for that, the only name that really stands out to me, well, I've seen David, was it Idayel, Adeli, Joseph Parker's on there, Carlos Takam's on there. A couple names that stood out.
Fighting, bro.
Yeah, Carlos Takam's fighting. So those are just a couple names that I saw that stood out. Fabio Wardley, but those are. I mean, it doesn't. It's weird in general because again, I couldn't find it on BoxRec, so it definitely sounds like it's probably just an exhibition. I don't think they're going to wear headgears or anything like that, but we'll see. I'm not sure. I mean, let us know in the comments. Are you guys going to watch the fight? Are you going to order it, or are you going to show up to a bar, house party? Let us know what you think, and let us know what your prediction is. Do you think it will be a decision or a knockout? Because I'm curious to see how it's going to go. I don't see it going as a decision either. I think Tyson Fury is going to want to show out by showing he's the baddest man on the planet by beating the other combat sports baddest man on the planet.
Yeah, like at one point I thought, all right, Fury will carry him, but where there's a fight signed for December, January,
Right.
now I think like, hey, Fury, like, I think he takes no chances of getting not in even losing. I can't even fathom that. I'm thinking like of getting cut, getting bruised. Like, all right, I got this. I got a fight sign. I'm getting this dude out of here as quick as possible. And I kind of hope that's what happens. Like, shoot,
Right.
if you're buying the fight for that, I don't know what the fight costs. I haven't looked. Like that will suck, but Tyson Fury definitely has the ability to take Francis Ngannou out. Like I said, whenever he wants. And with the fight signed for December, a real legacy defining fight, yeah, I think no chance is taking this fight, and let's get him out of here as quick as we can.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's a great way to like sell your next fight because, in boxing, you would have to find another top guy. But with what Tyson's doing, he's fighting the top guy in MMA and UFC. So he's going to pick up a dub there, and it's going to just help sell his fight against Usyk and whoever else, really. But
I'll tell you why I'm not mad at it too, right? Because to me, and this is probably just to me, because I know some people think Usyk's the best heavyweight. To me, the two best heavyweights were Tyson Fury, and probably still are Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. And Tyson Fury has beat him 2 times, right? Or arguably 3 times. I'd say 3 times. So it's like, man, what else do you want him to do? Like, I don't need to see Tyson Fury beat Andy Ruiz. Like, I think that's another easy fight, right? Like, Francis Ngannou or Andy Ruiz. I think he beats them just as easy. So that's kind of why I'm not mad at this fight. I know a lot of boxing purists maybe are, but who's gonna beat Tyson Fury?
yeah,
Like, to me, nobody. Like, maybe I guess you're saying Usyk. I don't think Usyk beats Tyson Fury, and I think that's another easy fight. So if if people want to see Francis Ngannou in there and they think he could land, he's the hardest puncher ever. He can land this punch. All right, like I think it's the same result whether we put Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, any of these guys. I think we're getting the same result. They're getting stopped easily.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm completely there with you, man. there's just like you mentioned too. There's certain fights that you don't want to see that you don't need to happen. But there's legacy fights that are going to happen.
Right.
And again, right now nobody's really on Tyson's level. Deontay Wilder, if him and Deontay, yeah, if they fought 100 times, Deontay would probably win 10, and Tyson would probably win 90 of those times.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't want to see Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder again.
Yeah, me neither.
And I think that's probably the only guy who could beat Tyson Fury. So it's like, all right, like Tyson could retire, or he could just, show up in the ring. It's going to be an event.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not mad at it, and they'll say maybe I'm never mad at anything, right? Like I watched Jake Paul fight, I watched these Floyd Mayweather exhibitions. Yeah, I'm gonna watch Tyson Fury.
Yeah,
I watched two guys. I go out and I see two guys get in a fight. I watch them fight too. So yeah, why would I not watch Tyson Fury fight the ex UFC heavyweight champ?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean it's like on paper, it's actually a really big event. It's not as big as it should be, but it's big. That's definitely something that's never been done before.
The promotion has been cool, like the trailers.
Oh yeah, those trailers are dope.
Yeah, I said someone told me they sent it to me and they were like, "Man, this is a better trailer than the last Creed movie." It was when they were knocking, every time they'd be training, everything be shaking. It's like, yeah, man, you gotta just take it for what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm cool with it.
Well, before we kind of wrap things up here, the other thing I want to talk about also in action this weekend, Halloween weekend too. We don't have anything big, but we do got fighting for a world championship here. Oshaki Foster is going against Eduardo Hernandez for the WBC Super Featherweight Championship. Well, actually, he's defending it. He picked it up last time against Ray Vargas, but how do you see this one going? I don't know much about Eduardo Hernandez, to be honest. I mean, he's 34-1 with 31 knockouts. That's all I can tell you.
Hey, yo, I mean, I think I said this earlier. You don't get 30 wins by just because. So, I mean, that's interesting, but also us not being too familiar with him. What are they fighting on? What is it? Because there's the Serrano card this weekend, right? Is it on that or no?
No. It's also going to be in DAZN though. But it's not going to be. I don't have a time or anything like that, but it is on DAZN. So make sure you check that out because Oshaki Foster is definitely he's got the good. And Eduardo Hernandez, that record itself, 34-1 with 31 knockouts, that alone speaks volume right there too. So it could be a fun fight. You never know. That era of upset is kind of looming there because you never know what kind of power he really does bring. I don't know what kind of skills he brings to the table. I've never seen him. But
where's he from? You got his box rec up?
Mexico City.
Yeah, you never know. Like those have been some of our. I think I say some of our, but I think you would agree. Some of our favorite fights where they bring in kind of guys with great records that you don't really know.
Yeah, without a doubt.
You could say that happened this past weekend with Rocha Santillan, right? They had a good record that you were just expecting. They have a good record, but we'll walk through them. I always go back to Miguel Cotto, Richard Torres. Was it,
bro? Yeah.
No. What's his name?
Yeah, Richard Torres, right?
Isn't that the heavyweight though too? They got the same name.
Yeah, they have the same name, except Richard Torres is with the S and the heavyweight's with the Z.
Yeah, it was throwing me off, but that was one of my great record. But when it's happening, you're like, hold on, this shouldn't be happening,
right?
Because that's not what was expected. So yeah, this is my first time hearing about this fight, but I mean, it could be interesting, I guess.
Yeah, and those are kind of the dudes. Usually, it's usually always dudes from like South America with those kind of records too that come up and play spoiler. This guy's from Mexico, which has me a little bit like, okay, we know the history of the guys that come from the Mexico circuit too. So this could go one of two ways. So we'll see. We'll definitely see.
Right, like Torres was Colombia. You
Yeah,
get the Argentine guys that kind of hit us with some shockers. Um, yeah,
yeah.
being
It's
from Mexico City, like, yeah, maybe more people know about them, so maybe they're more confident about this pick. But yeah, with that type of record, um, yeah, it's worth tuning into for sure.
yeah. I mean, I think the guy might be worth something though. He's only 25 years old too. His only
Dang.
loss, yeah, yeah, the 35 fights with only 25 years old. His only loss came 2019. It was a first round stoppage. And then he was back in there again, a couple months later, just back at it again. So yeah, he's been pretty active, man. We'll see. I'm gonna after we're done tonight, try to see if I can find some clips on him because I think I'm intrigued for sure.
I'll give my what I do when I see that. Then I go to who knocked him out, and then who beat him, and who
Yeah.
beat. But yeah, man,
Boxing is a rabbit hole like that. You know what's crazy is I do that a lot too. And at what point do you like draw the line?
yeah. I mean, yeah, it depends. If it's helping your case, you don't draw the line. If it's not helping your case, and you're like, oh, okay, that was a while ago. That's boxing, man. That's why nobody's record's bulletproof. Uh, it's all objectionable. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's what makes the sport fun. Like, I can make a case on. I could be the biggest Floyd fan and talk about his record, and then I can argue against his record.
Exactly.
And you know, hey,
You-
that's why we're here. We could debate whatever, and that's why people, you talk about Floyd Mayweather and somebody a little older than us is gonna tell you, hey, Sugar Ray Leonard would have beat him easy.
oh yeah.
That's boxing, man.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure in 10 years, whatever fighter's coming up at that time or whoever the top dog is at that time, let's just say it's Devin Haney or something. My son's gonna look at him and be like, that guy would have beat Floyd. same
Yeah,
same
yeah,
thing. As generations
yeah.
go on, you know what I mean? That's how it goes.
But what makes Floyd tough is that he went out with 0 losses.
Yeah, exactly. And even the ones that have asterisks on them, which is the 2 fights, the Jose Luis Castillo fight and the Marcos Maidana fight.
Yeah.
You
Even,
can,
hey, bro, I've rewatched that De La Hoya fight. And that De La
oh
Hoya
yeah,
fight was close.
yeah,
And
yeah. That one,
if you remember, he retired right after that. There was a
yep,
rematch clause, and he retired for the length of that rematch clause,
yep,
and came back when that rematch clause expired. So,
exactly.
hey, that's what allows us to debate to this day. But
And that's the one thing about his record too is it's gonna take for people who are around during his time to remember these things. But um, he also fought in his return fight Juan Manuel Marquez at a scheduled 140. He came in overweight, refused to announce how much overweight he was, and just
yep.
paid the fine. Like, didn't want the public to know exactly. Nobody knows to this day how much he came in overweight. He just paid whatever it was that they said, and that was it. They swept it under the rug, and then he
They
dominated
did.
Marquez.
Yeah, so you figure in 20 years, right? It's gonna have to take some boxing nerd to be like, hey, Floyd had a catchweight that, and he was overweight on that fight. People look up to it and they'll argue about whoever it is at that time. Um, but bro, that's boxing, right? Like
Yeah,
I think that's what makes the sport interesting because in a sport like basketball, guys get bigger, more athletic. They could do things that the previous generation couldn't do. In
yeah,
boxing, bro, there's still weight classes. So a guy weighing 147 pounds today, 50 years ago, was weighing 147 pounds. So let's have that argument.
right.
And I think that's what makes boxing great. The history of the sport.
Fantasy matchmaking.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, and I'll give a cheap plug. They're going to be doing every Friday night on Catch and Counter on this platform, of course. If you guys watch, they're going to be doing Fantasy Fight Fridays, so make sure you guys tune into that because they're going to be throwing out some bangers in there. I've thrown out some suggested names of guys that I like, but yeah, I mean, you can make so many different arguments with fights and fighters and the records. Seeing, especially like how we mentioned going down the rabbit hole, who beat this guy, who beat that guy. When he beat him, what did that guy do after his career? Was that like it? Did he call it a career, or did he go on like Floyd and Cotto? Like people could have said at that time, Cotto was no longer the same Cotto that he was, which is true. He wasn't the same Cotto at 140 when Floyd fought him. When he did fight, but the fact that Floyd beat him and then Cotto still went on to become middleweight champion, that
right.
that just adds to his victory. You know what I mean?
And it's like, where do you draw that line? Where do you draw that line where he wasn't the same guy anymore? And that's just all questionable, right? Shoot, you could do that with just about anybody.
Yeah, really, any fight.
Yeah,
and you could even do it. I'm gonna go way back to just Ali and Frazier. You could say Frazier didn't win those next two fights because of how much the first fight took out of him, and then the two fights with Foreman and everything else. He was just never the same, even after a victory.
Yeah, but then Foreman goes on and becomes heavyweight champ in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like, well, now that's even more impressive.
Right.
I mean, that's the sport, man. And
yeah,
I think, people, going back to basketball, people argue, Kobe, LeBron, Jordan, and it's like, you can make those arguments, but I feel like athletes evolved. But in boxing, where you have weight classes, it's like 147 pounds is 147 pounds, whether that's today or 100 years ago.
Right.
So I feel like that, those arguments are more, more legitimate. When we talk about heavyweight boxing, that's why I could say Tyson Fury is arguably the best heavyweight boxer ever, because what is heavyweight boxing? Over 200 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Hey, a 6'9", 260-pound Tyson Fury would be a heavyweight today, just like he'd be 100 years ago. Now, those guys were 205, 210, 6 foot. Bro, I'm going to argue Tyson Fury beats all of them.
Yeah. It really is. And I can't argue that argument. Usually when people say something crazy and outlandish, I'm just, you can see it. Everybody would tell him, but you can't argue that about Tyson Fury. That's size and skill wise. Like he can hold his own and be on the upper hand against any of those people without a doubt.
100%, man, and that's one of the reasons why I love boxing. These arguments, like we said, bro, there's got to be a lot of people like us, right, that go down that rabbit hole and box rec.
Oh yeah.
Bro, I'm like, who beat him? Who beat him? I end up at a guy that's 4-0, and I'm like, bro, hold on. How did I end up here, right? Like, he had started off beating the world. I went from a guy who beat a world champion, he lost to this guy, lost to this guy, lost to this guy, and now there's a guy that's 4-0. And I'm like, oh, maybe that guy's going to be the guy. You never know, but yeah, that's definitely a rabbit hole you could get, get lost.
The way the boxing searches go, too, is, we'll research a fighter. We end up on that 4-0 fighter because that's the guy's sparring partner, or that's the guy in his camp. Like, that's how in-depth we get with our research. So yeah, it gets pretty crazy being a boxing fan, a diehard boxing fan. It is. And again, where do you draw the line? And it's like you say, what argument are you trying to present? It all depends.
And, hey, it's a numbers game, right? Like, whatever argument you want to present, hey, do enough research and you'll probably come up with it. Like, at the end of the day, you could be proven wrong when they get in the ring, but hey, there's probably an argument to be had somewhere.
I think I saw most of those like arguments and theories and ideas and concepts during Crawford and Spence, because they had so many in common opponents already too, and because of where they were in their career. There was a lot of those things, people,
Yeah,
justifying wins and losses, all of that.
you say, oh well, when he fought Kell Brook, he was coming off this. Sean Porter was coming off this. So hey, but at the end of the day, they got to get in the ring. But where boxers overlap, these eras kind of overlap, where sparring partners going back. Let me circle back to Santillan and Rocha. Santillan was saying that he in 2015, I heard an interview in 2015, he was a sparring partner for Floyd.
Wow.
Yeah, because being a southpaw, he was when Floyd was fighting Pacquiao, he was one of the main sparring partners.
Wow.
Yeah, so you're like, oh shoot, okay, so damn, 2015. So like, if you had all this information before, you're like, oh, he sparred Floyd, gave Floyd
Right.
work. I think in the fight they said he was Jose Ramirez's chief sparring partner for Josh Taylor, and it's like, oh man, I should
Damn.
have seen this. But yeah, man, it's just the way boxing overlaps, and boxers, doing what they do to better themselves. It's just so much, and I think, yeah, man, boxing's a great sport.
Yeah, it's one of those things you can't really, you can do as much research as you want, but when you get in the ring too, it all just everything, nothing ever goes according to plan most of the time.
Well, not only that, right? Because even we could talk about, I mean, we've talked about records, but I kind of brought up sparring. Bro, you could be the best sparring partner ever, but
Right.
now you're gonna get in the ring and you got a crowd around you. You got the gloves are probably about half the size. You got
Yeah.
no headgear. And it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
There's so many different factors that play a part. And man, it's basically why we're able to be on every week, because we could think we know what's gonna happen, but we never know.
Right. And it's and, all of us, we're quote unquote experts, but I mean, we interact with you guys a lot in the conversation in the chat because we're all fans at the end of the day. And the one thing you mentioned too, there, another reason why we're able to be on week after week too is it's boxing. There's no off season. I just saw that the show that Shaq and Charles Barkley are on is coming back. Now that the season's back, they do have a great show, but you can only watch their show during a certain season. We're here year round, and that's the thing that I love about boxing is there is no off season at all. It's just continuous, which allows us to put in work year round.
Yeah, we got let's see, we got what's the word on Clarissa Shields and Keith Thurman? Um, I wish Thurman would have knocked her out. I think she stood no chance. That's dumb. I don't know why she's like that, or why she keeps acting like that. See, I've said it before today. That's two different sports: men's boxing, women's boxing. But I don't think it happens. Keith Thurman's got a real big fight against Staniosis. That's the 15th, Felix.
Yeah.
December.
Yes, sir.
Shaping up to be a great card. So yeah, I don't think that ever happens. I don't. Someone must have told her like, nah, that's not right for you.
I think she's just she might be down the controversy styles playbook, but I know she's trying to make waves somehow.
Yeah, I saw her talking about. She said Floyd Mayweather talked to her. I don't know how old this interview was, and she was telling him, she wants to make so much money, and he asked her, well, how much money are you making right now? And I don't know. I might be off, but she said like 300,000. He said, okay, you're in your 8th fight or 10th fight. He said, I didn't make that much in my 8th or 10th fight. And he told her, like, just keep making your money. Like, you're in a good position. Just make your money. Like, don't, talk yourself out of this great money you're making. And self-awareness again, bro. Like, people aren't lining up. They aren't filling stadiums to see. I couldn't tell you who Clarissa Shields' number one contender is right now. There
Yeah.
has to be some demand for the product. So she could call out Keith Thurman. I think it's just getting her name out there. I don't think she thinks she can fight Keith Thurman.
Right. And I think she picked the right person because we've talked about cutting promos and all that. And Keith Thurman is, up there with the best of them. And he gave a great response to her. He's like, it should have happened. I wouldn't even want it to happen. And, just his answer in general of, why it should have happened. It was a great, classy response. And I'm glad it was him that gave that response. And, I'm glad she didn't call out somebody like Adrian Broner. Let's say that, because I don't think the answer would have been as good or classy.
Yeah, like Keith acknowledged it. He kind of gave it some gas.
Yeah.
Did her a favor. Basically, is how I see it.
Right. He put her over.
Yeah, it could have went. It could have went south. It could have went bad
easily.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's definitely a show for the night. We don't have last weekend was a very busy, and we don't have, a circus.
One more thing while we're on Clarissa Shields.
Yeah.
Amanda Serrano, I believe, does fight this weekend. I normally wouldn't care, but it is a 3-minute round.
Oh, yes.
12 rounds, 3-minute rounds. What do you think, man?
Hey, that's huge. I'm looking forward to that. I forgot about that was this weekend. That's gonna be fun to see. It's gonna be interesting to see how they respond to that. Midway through the fight and even after the first few rounds, because that last minute, I'd say by the third or fourth round, they might not be gassed, but they're gonna see the difference. They're gonna feel the difference because that extra minute can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I guess, curious to see. I know Shields is kind of brought up. Shields kind of argues, oh, she'd have a lot more knockouts if it was 3 minutes. But I feel like if it's 3 minutes, you don't fight the same as if we're 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So maybe Shields is beating someone up for 2 minutes, and if she had a few more seconds, she'd get her out of there. But that's a tough pace to keep if you know that it's 3 minutes, So I know a lot of the women fighters are probably thinking, I just need 3 minutes, but man, that changes up the whole pace. That changes up your output. It'll be curious. I'm curious to see, but I'm not really looking forward to it, man. I for championship fights, I'm okay with it, but some of these fights are really bad. And 12 2-minute or 10 2-minute rounds gets bad. So now if I have to see it for 3 minutes, it's like, we'll see.
Hey, it's that extra minute though. I mean, you'd have to set it up. You can learn more. You can set different kind of traps, different things like that. I'm sure there's sparring 3 minutes, so they already got kind of used to it. Sure. But like you said, when you get in the ring, when you take off the headgear, you get smaller gloves. You're in that environment, it's a different ball game. So
I feel like a puncher is a puncher, though, right? Like,
yeah,
like Fundora. Like we just talked about her. Like that punch she landed. She didn't need 3 minutes to land it. She hit her, boom, fight's ended. Like if you're saying you need 3 minutes, that I feel like you're gonna just try to overwhelm her. Props to them for wanting to go 3 minutes, but I preferred it as, it's two different sports, man. And I see like women's world championship boxing, and I've seen on some promotional tools, whatever, the women's is crossed out and it's just women, or it's just championship boxing. I respect it, but man, at the end of the day, I like it as two different sports.
Yeah. And I get your reasoning too. That should be fun.
If she doesn't knock her out, if she doesn't, granted, Serrano's a KO puncher, but if she knock her out, like, then what was all this for?
I just looked at her record too, and the girl's 12-1 with 1 knockout. So I don't think Amanda's gonna have any respect for her power at all. So I think that might be a blowout for Serrano, and I think it's gonna be like you said. There might not be a need for that extra minute because it might just be a quick knockout.
It shouldn't be. Yeah, it shouldn't. Yeah. No.
Hey, that's it, man. I'm out. You're out, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Hey, if you're watching, just please click the like, something, comment, all that stuff.
Yeah, we should actually say that at the beginning of the show next time too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they probably didn't hang around for this long, but yeah, hey, appreciate you.
Hey, peace, y'all.
Like.